Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. As always, I cannot wait to introduce our guest to you again. But before I do, I want to thank some people that we always thank. We want to thank brassandwinds.com. The Mighty Quinn Brass and Winds have long been our partners at the Willow School in providing good musical instruments to our students. We hope you'll check them out at brassandwinds.com. You are watching TruerMU, the truth about music. We hope that if you like this video, you will push that like button, and we hope that you will subscribe. We think we go deeper than other channels in terms of what we ask and how we ask it, and we hope you enjoy. To that end, let me introduce our guest to you. Our guest is a special guest here because he has been on twice before, and he'd be special anyway because he's a special guy, but we're very happy to have him back for a third time. His name is Tom Werman, and he has produced groups such as Cheap Trick and Poison and has had multiple platinum albums. And if you want to know more about him that you don't get from this interview, you can check out the other 2 interviews we did with him. But Tom Werman, thank you for coming back to our show.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
We're glad to have you. And you are on our show because I made a promise to you that when your book came out, we would have you back. And your book has come out. What's the title
yet. November 21st.
So we're waiting anxiously on with bated breath. What's the title of the book?
It's called Turn It Up, and you can pre-order it on Amazon. I don't know exactly how. I think you maybe put the title and my name in, and I know a lot of people have pre-ordered it. The title was originally it was different, but it broke a few woke rules. I used a word that people said, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't use that word, and it was it's a perfectly harmless word, but
best is to play it safe when you're trying to appeal to a lot of people.
Well, right, the publisher really liked Turn It Up.
Good. I think it's a great title too. You have had a remarkable career, and we'll talk about a lot of it in the course of this interview. But why write a book after all these years?
Well, I discovered that there was a lot of interest in classic rock. I did one podcast 3 years ago, roughly, about the making of one album, and it got 150,000 hits.
Wow.
And I said, well, gee, there seems to be a lot of interest in classic rock out there. And I also came to know that kids knew all about music from the 60s and 70s, 40 or 50 years later.
Yeah.
Which is really exceptional. I mean, we listened to a little of our parents' music, my generation. Well, I didn't listen to a lot of Benny Goodman and Sinatra. I knew who they were, but I don't want to be like rude about. I don't love a lot of today's music because it's perfect, and I think it's pretty repetitive. I know there's good music out there. I must admit that I don't look for it, that I continue to listen to music from, the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's so much of it. And so much of it is really good. And my son works for Warner Records in LA in A&R, and we can't really talk too much about today's music. They don't go out to listen to bands in clubs, really. They use algorithms, and they look at what's online and what kinds of traffic they're building. I don't know exactly how they do it. It doesn't sound like much fun to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, the classic rock is called classic rock for a reason. There are songs that have been termed evergreen because you'll hear them in perpetuity forever on classic rock stations. There's a classic rock station in every big city in the country.
Yeah.
So that's why And I also, I would have a thought, and I would run to the desk and write about it for 10 or 15 minutes, and then I'd fit it in somewhere. I did come across many years ago, I came across a um, a, a piece on a podcast um, that was extremely critical for. I never met the guy, but he got pretty personal about it. I'm trying to remember. Popdose.com.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really, I mean, he really slagged me badly. And so I contacted the editor of the podcast, and I said, can I write a rebuttal? Can I write my? And he said, sure, that'd be nice. So I wrote, and they published it. And he said, could you write more? Would you write more things for us? And so I wrote 18 episodes. And that really formed the basis for the book.
Yeah. I read both the series of blogs and the book, and there's a lot of crossover. Clearly, you were able to
Yeah.
make a lot of book out of those.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So the book was actually mostly written by the time you got to it, and you just had to put it together.
Well, you make it sound pretty easy.
No, no, what
Uh,
I mean is, writing a book's not easy, but you didn't have to start from scratch. You had been writing this book for some time, is what I meant.
Correct. I think probably 3.5 years
Yeah.
before, maybe four, because I never did what professional writers do. A lot of them will say, I get up 5 a.m., have a cup of coffee, have 2 cups of strong coffee, and I pound out 10 pages, regardless of whether I feel like it or not. I don't do that. I didn't do that. I wrote for 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes I wouldn't write for a month. Um, it just, that's why it took a long time. And I only wanted to write when I was inspired to write, when I thought of something or remembered something. And I said, yeah, I should write about that. Um, it was very difficult to write and not repeat myself,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
I had to, and I've read the book 100 times now, especially, the last few edits. I had an editor who was very, very nice, very collaborative, hardly changed anything, really, but was useful in many ways. And I can't read the book. I'm trying to read it now.
After 100 times.
Yeah, and I cannot read it as a new reader would, a first time reader.
If you don't mind, as a
Yeah,
person who's written a lot of books, I'm going to tell you something that might surprise you. When
yeah,
you read your book for the 100th time, you are reading it the way someone is reading it for the first time,
really.
because you're so sick of it that you're
Yeah,
only going to respond to what really works.
I guess. I
Yeah.
guess.
So you
Yeah,
are reading it the way most people are reading it.
I
You
hope
know,
so. I still like it.
then they will, as I
I
did.
yeah,
It's gripping. I mean, your life is full of it's an amazing story. When you put this book together, did it help sum your life up for you in your head? Did it complete something for you? Was it nice to see the arc of your life like that?
yeah. Yes, it was a fortunate life, but I did take advantage of what was available at the time.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the timing for me was truly great from when I was 9 and discovered Elvis, right to 1970 when I started at CBS, and you couldn't have picked a better 20 years to make records and sell records.
Yeah.
People were buying records like they buy food, and they were hiring because they needed people. They couldn't make records fast enough for the demand. So fortunately, I got lucky. I wrote a letter to Clive, and I had some good interviews, and then there it was. And I probably it worked out better for me that I didn't get the job I desired, which was at the Columbia label, but they put me with Epic,
Hmm.
and it was a very small label that we had the opportunity to build, and we really built it.
Yeah.
You know,
You mentioned some regrets about not getting to go to Warner Brothers. Do you wish you had been at Warner Brothers?
I really liked Warner Brothers. I had friends and acquaintances there, some high up, and they asked me to come over. Mo Austin, had me over to his house for lunch, and they wanted me to be a staff producer there. It was a tough call, but I stayed. I stayed with CBS, probably for another 2 or 3 years, and I don't know. It was a very freewheeling company. It was really cool,
Yeah.
whereas CBS was corporate.
Warner Brothers had a reputation for picking visionaries sometimes. Randy Newman was on Warner Brothers, for instance. They weren't afraid to take some chances.
Right, right. It's true. They had a type of artist that was, I think, a cut above. Really, really interesting in every genre. They had some of the best.
Yeah. Well, I keep pointing out your success just because I like you so much, but and you push it off as luck in a lot of ways. But I want you to talk about maybe some things that aren't luck that contributed to your success. Clearly, luck is going to be a part of any really successful life, but it's not all luck. What would you attribute to your success?
Sheer talent.
Yeah.
You know, uh, First of all, the time. People were making records. There was a creative explosion, really. Um, I also, over time, did develop. I have a kind of indelible memory for music. For music, if I hear it, I absorb it, and it gets locked into the jukebox in my head. So, you know, I have Sirius XM radio in the car, and I'll listen to the 60s on 6 or whatever, wherever it is now, they moved it.
Yeah.
And I'll hear a song that I haven't heard in 50 years, and I'll remember everything about it. I
Right.
haven't heard it in 50 years. I can sing along with it. I know the guitar solo,
Yeah.
I have so many solos in my head, and I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday. It's amazing. So I had that ability. I can also, just to illustrate it, and don't ask me to do it now. Um, you could read me the serial number from a bill, a dollar bill, which is 12 figures, 12 digits or letters, and I'll read it to you backwards.
Yeah, you won some bar bets this way.
Yes, that is correct. Oh, you read that in the book.
Of course, I read that in the book. I
Yeah,
read
yeah,
everything in the book.
yeah. That right.
Yeah. It's
So
like,
I'm terrible at technological stuff. I'm just an idiot.
mhm.
But in terms of music and art, it just comes in. I love it. I love uh, rock and roll music. Uh, I'm not. I had to kind of sneak around to listen to it when I was a kid, um, but it took me 25 years to understand that I should make a career out of it. Rather
Uh-huh.
than that, try to please my parents and be a corporate executive.
Right. Well, now I also want to point out something about you that I do admire. You're generous with your time and you're very helpful and you're willing to talk to anyone. You've been willing to talk to us, for instance, which I thought was very nice. Do you consider this? Is this something that you take for granted? You say, "Well, I'm that way," or is this? Do you think part of the success too?
Hmm. Well, I do enjoy talking. I get pretty enthusiastic about certain things. Um,
Well,
I'm
I'm
not.
thinking about how you
I,
when you got demos from bands, you actually took the time to respond to each band. Of the 90 million you got, you only signed maybe 5 of them, and you responded to everybody's demo with something.
it's
That's
true.
above and beyond.
Yeah. Well, I think I was one of the only, if not the only, A&R people in the '70s who did not send a form letter. This is not exactly what we're looking for right now. Thank you very much. We urge you to continue with your creative. No, I tried to help them.
Yeah.
If their lyrics sucked, then I'd say work on your lyrics. Um, there was a lot. Yeah, I really took a lot of time.
Yeah, so by helping other people with their success, do you think some of that rubbed off on you? I mean, is there a benefit to helping people like that?
I don't know. I don't know. In with all the my with my recording history, I don't know if people were exactly grateful for the help that I gave them.
Only
Um,
the successful ones weren't grateful.
right, right. In many cases, that is true.
That's very odd, huh?
It is. But I think I have a theory about success. People who are driven to succeed, they prioritize things differently from the rest of us. Um, Friendship, loyalty, things like that, not as important as success.
Yeah. But you had success, and were you not driven to succeed?
Yeah, I was. I was. I guess I was. It's better to succeed than to fail. But really, I just tried to. I just had fun.
Mhm.
I thought, as I said in the book, uh, the producer's chair looked like the best seat in the world. I mean, this was the greatest job I could imagine, sitting in a studio, listening on a fabulous sound system to music that you liked already, and you had the authority, to and the credibility to improve it,
Mhm.
to try to make it even better than the stuff you liked. That to me, and I came to know what a producer did in stages. I wasn't sure in the beginning. I had no idea. He was just on the back of this album. And eventually I started going to the studio and I watched producers produce. And I said, in many cases, I can do better than that.
Mhm.
They don't know what they're talking about. And not everybody, but I did see people make poor musical decisions, and I couldn't say anything. So the only way I got to be a producer was by making suggestions. You know,
What do you wish you had done better, or maybe a better way to say it, what do you wish you had learned sooner?
well, not a lot, really. There are some there are some mixes that I feel in today's sonic world could have been more dynamic. Although my mixes were not straight across mixes, they things got louder and softer on purpose. But I just think that um, listening to music now that was mixed 30, 40 years ago, you can always hear something. That's why people are always remixing and remastering albums, the new mix, the new this, the new that.
Yeah.
I heard put something on Symphony Hall station on Sirius Radio that had to do with the Beatles and classical music. And they played Beatles songs that were obviously remixed and really improved. I mean, I used to be a purist and say, oh, no, I want to hear it the way it was recorded. But this enabled you to hear stuff that you just couldn't hear,
Yeah.
you know, and that was great. So yeah, I wish I had, some songs I wish I had produced more
Better.
effectively.
But
Yeah,
these are detail things. It's
not a lot.
not as
Yeah,
if you had a big process problem that you eventually solved. I understand. Yeah.
right. In fact, I used certain approaches many times, the ones that worked.
Mm-hmm.
I'd use them again. Not not the melody, not the track, but recording techniques.
Did your production style match other producers, or was it very different?
Hard to know. I never watched a whole album being made.
Wow. So you
Um,
don't know how Bob Clearmountain does it, or how you don't know how these people do it? Really?
I never really talked to them, but I worked with engineers who had worked with a lot of different producers, and I I wasn't particularly, unique. Um, I just did what I found to be most effective, and and it worked. And whatever really worked, I would use again. And I just got better and better, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
For instance, the use of just 3 takes of a vocal track, and then you piece together the best vocal out of that.
that, and then you do two more, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. What's the other
yeah.
two for?
Well, you do 3 tracks. He sings 3 times. You tell him to go take a nap. You put the 3 together into one, and then you have him come back and sing 2 more. And then you take those 2, and anything that's better than the one you have, you put that
Ah,
in.
right, right. So
And you're always doing from play to record and play to record. You're bouncing. You're going from this track to the master track. And once you've got the 5 performances down, you have a pretty close final vocal. And then you just say, listen, let's fix these words or this half line. Just sing along and we'll get you in and out of record.
yeah,
So really, if the vocalist is good, he only has to sing the song 6 times through.
yeah,
You know, and it may take 45 minutes, an hour, but he doesn't have to stand in there for hours and hours. And I guess I use Robin Zander and Vince Neil as examples, because Vince would he would come in, he would work hard, but he didn't train, you know.
Vince. No, Robin Zander's Cheap Trick. Was it,
Yeah, yeah. Robin was clearly the best vocalist I ever worked with.
yeah,
Um, and Vince was a party guy, and he would, he wouldn't train. He wouldn't say, "Oh, I've got to do this song tomorrow. I can't go. I can't go to that party, or I can't stay up any longer." He just didn't do that. You
yeah,
know, so he'd come in, and sometimes, we'd work on one song for the entire afternoon.
yeah.
It was
So
tough.
you developed a kind of a rock climbing approach where you get so high and you make it so you can't fall any lower, but you can go up.
I guess, yeah.
I was thinking you get your 3 takes and you've got a really good version. So if
Yeah,
nothing else, you'll have that. But then can you improve on that? And you're not going to lose anything by adding another couple of tracks to try to improve it.
right.
Right. Now, it seems paradoxical to me, but it is true that by doing this artificial creation of a vocal track, you end up with the most natural sounding vocals. How is this possible?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's singing it, you can't it's not like this line is one guy and this line sounds like somebody else. Um, it's the same guy,
Yeah. But it
and
shouldn't be natural. I mean, it's like three different times that he was singing. It's weird.
oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
And if it does sound like that, odd, I'll hear it, and
Right.
we'll do it until it sounds natural.
The point is, yeah, you're trying to make it sound natural. There you go.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, right. Of course.
yeah, it usually worked.
Yeah.